Good afternoon, Ron, and thank you for speaking with us today. In the wake of the Islanders series, do you feel that your team can contend for a Stanley Cup with Tristan Jarry as your number one goaltender? And if not, how do you go about trying to replace him?
Well, we do feel like Tristan did a good job for us this year from the time that Berkey and I came in mid-February there through the end of the year. We had very good goaltending from both guys. Obviously, you saw what happened in Game 5, unfortunate error there, and then Game 6 wasn't the best, but I think we wouldn't have been where we were without Tristan. And we all have to remember Tristan's a young player. He's going to learn from this and he's going to come back better in September. So we all learn lessons in life. And if you're going to be a goaltender in this league for a long time, you're going to have your ups and downs, as pretty much every guy does. And you learn from it and get better. So we're confident that Tristan is going to get better. Liked a lot of the things from our team this year, our resiliency through a lot of injuries. I think we had five of our top nine forwards out at the same time, and our guys battled through. And there were times I know a lot of people had us dead to rights because of our lineup. We found a way to win, and there's a special drive to this group and chemistry that we like, and we do believe that we'll do everything we can to try to get better this summer at every position. And we'll see what comes our way, but our goal next year is to come back and make the playoffs and hopefully go on a run.
Matt Wenzel.
Hey, Ron. Now that you've had a few months here to observe the team up close, what would you like the on-ice identity of the team to be going forward? And are you aligned with Mike Sullivan on that at this point in the offseason?
Yes, we're aligned. It's we've got a really good team, and I always mention Jimmy Rutherford when I say that because he built the team, and obviously a couple guys before him as well. But Jimmy did a very good job here. Berkey and I inherited a very good team with obviously some top players, but also a lot of really good support players. Um, we're excited about our group. I mean, Sid's Tanger, Gino, they're not in their 20s anymore. But with, bringing Jeff Carter in and having really a deep team, having a deep team nowadays is important. We got a hardworking team. We've got a skilled team. We've got a fast team. Um, would we like to add a little bit of size? Of course, we'd like to add a little bit of size, a little bit of um, toughness. Yes, it would be nice, but there's not a lot out there, and we'll look at what's there this summer. And we'll make adjustments, but if we go into the next season with this group, we're comfortable.
Josh Yohe.
Hey, Ron, thank you for doing this. I'm curious, how happy were you with your coaching staff this season, and do you expect that entire staff to return intact next season?
We were very pleased with our coaching staff. I think, like I mentioned earlier, having 5 year top nine forwards out and continuing to find ways to win is hats off to the coaches and certainly the players. Um, it was a tough year. I mean, it'd be remiss if I didn't mention, the challenges with COVID. Our entire staff, not just the players and the coaches, but our entire staff, I think, did a terrific job. There were a lot of challenges in the hotels on the road and all the testing here and whatnot, the testing staff that we had. So it was a challenging year for everybody, and the way we lost in the playoffs obviously leaves a sour taste in your mouth. But there are a lot of positives that happened this year for our club and for the organization.
Seth.
Hi, Ron. Appreciate your time. Just what discussions have you and your staff had regarding the core players, meaning Sid, Evgeny, Chris, and their futures, whether it's serving out the remainders of their contracts, most specifically Chris and Evgeny, or even potentially contract extensions for those players moving forward?
Yeah, those are discussions that are certainly ongoing right now within our staff. Not necessarily eager to discuss them right now, but we see a future with with this core, and these guys have been here a long time. And again, we had a good year. It certainly didn't give me pause to think about what we should do with this core. I think we were fifth in the league. Most of our, goals against, goals for, all those types of numbers were all good, so it wasn't a fluke. So I expect to have these guys back next year for sure.
Mike DeFabo.
Hey, Ron, there's an interesting dynamic here with the flat salary cap and then the expansion draft coming up this summer. Just how do you anticipate those two things factoring into some of the decisions you make this offseason?
Well, they're going to be big factors for sure. I mean, trying to figure out what's going to happen in expansion is a tough thing. We don't have our list finalized yet, and obviously I wouldn't necessarily share that anyway. But we've got ideas on it. But what Seattle will do, don't have a real good idea, and probably won't until it actually happens. The flat cap is going to be a challenge for us for sure. We've got, I think Teddy and Zach are restricted free agents, so trying to kind of project those numbers, and it's we've got some work to do here for sure, and we've got our challenges.
Chris Adamski.
Hey, Ron, along those lines, with the expansion draft, I mean, what George McPhee did with Vegas, I don't, to turn that team into a finalist. What did, I know you weren't, running a team or GM at that moment or during the expansion draft or whatever, but what did you learn? What do you think the league learned? Did they learn anything in terms of how Vegas approached it, how Seattle might approach it? Were there mistakes made by teams in terms of how, that many good players got to an expansion team, and can you learn from that, and how will you maybe approach it differently this time than maybe other teams did 3 years ago?
I was actually a GM at the time. We did lose a player. It's a tough one because everybody's got different assets, and young assets and older assets and cap issues. And I mean, I could see some players being out there this year just because of the flat salary cap. So I think it's going to be different, but I do think we all learned our lessons from last time. Personally, my approach is that we're gonna probably lose a pretty good player, and rather than give up a couple of assets to try to keep, I think we'll probably lose a pretty good player. I'm speculating there. Obviously, who knows what will come along, but right at this point, I'd say we'll just lose a player.
Wes Crosby.
Ron, in the months that you've been GM now, is there anything that you might have noticed about the group or got to know about the group that you wouldn't have from outside? And you talked about maybe wanting to add a little bit of physicality, but is there anything that you might have learned that might help shape the way that you would like to shape the team moving forward?
I think the biggest thing I learned is probably the resiliency that the group showed. I mean, like I said, 5 out of 9 forwards are out, and we just continued to win and wouldn't take no for an answer. So that's obviously it starts with your top guys, but it also has to trickle down your lineup, and it did. We had a lot of guys step up at different moments of the year, scoring big goals, playing big games, maybe playing out of position and doing a really good job. So we've got some players they're versatile players, but the resiliency that we showed throughout the year I thought was really good. And quite frankly, I think as a lot of people do, I felt like we deserved to win the first round of the playoffs.
We'll take a few more. Dan Kingerski.
Hi, Ron. Just based on your comments here, can you say that the Penguins are in win now mode still, coming for the 21-22 season?
Yeah, that's fair to say. We've got some pretty special players that they're obviously not in their 20s anymore, but they're still playing at a high level. So we'll be in win now mode, trying to balance giving away futures, obviously, but also trying to find ways to try to make our team a little bit better here and there.
Jeff Hathorn.
Jeff, are you there?
Yeah, we can't hear you, Jeff. We'll go to Jim Colony.
Right, from one 93.7 The Fan to another. Ron, is there a difference, or does there have to be a difference between constructing a roster that can win the way the game is played in the regular season, and is there a difference to constructing a roster that you have to win in the postseason?
Well, it's certainly a great question. Something that I think we probably debate it every year, but certainly something to think about right now. The standard, I think, has gone up in terms of what is and what isn't a penalty since the playoffs started, and it's something that you can't just ignore. But I think the biggest thing in the playoffs is you got to have a team that's willing to play through. Like there's going to be teams that want to play physical and run you because they feel like that's the only way that they can beat you, and you got to have players that are willing to play through that. And quite honestly, I think we showed that in the first round that we had a lot of players that are willing to play through the hard stuff and the hooks and the holds and the interference and the hits, and guys leaning on you. So for the most part, I thought we did a pretty good job, but it's a fair question. And again, if we could add a little bit of size to help with that, we would.
Albie Oxenrider.
Hi, Ron. Thank you for your time. Can you hear me, Ron?
I can. I got you.
Okay, thanks. This, by the way, the first time I've talked to you since Hershey Park Arena in the early '80s, so it's good to speak with you again. We appreciate your time.
All right. Well, you're giving away your age right there.
Yeah, I am, no doubt. Thank you, Ron. Two questions real fast. Is there one thing you can point to that was missing, especially in the playoffs, in that series against the Islanders, aside from COVID and aside from the injuries that you had to deal with? And is there one off-season priority that you can share with us that you'll be trying to achieve?
I don't know if there's one thing in this series that I can point to. I think game 5, it's safe to say that we could have won that game in regulation by more than a goal or two, the way the game went. You know, a little bit of puck luck, a tip in here, a puck off a skate, whatever. That could have been totally different. So, I mean, it's easy to look back in the series and we lost, and it's so disappointing. On the other hand, you do have to look at how you played and whether you had shortcomings. And you know, we created enough chances. We didn't give up too many chances. So you start to look at those types of things. Were we not able to play through the hooks and the holds and the interference? And you know, we were. So I don't look at it like there was a whole lot of holes in our game in the first round there where we say, okay, we need to plug, you know, this hole. Where, you know, when for example, when Gino and Teddy are out there, okay, as good a job as Jared McCann did in the middle, we lost a winger in Jared McCann. So to bring Jeff in to kind of fill that hole that we felt like we had, I didn't see a whole lot of, you know, holes in the playoffs that I felt like we have to fill. Again, if we can get a little bit bigger and maybe a little bit of toughness, we'd certainly look at that.
Last question, Mike Pursuta.
Following up on that bigger toughness angle, Ron, you mentioned those guys are hard to find. Is that because the league is trending more that way now? Had it been more speed, skill recently, and that element is underdeveloped? Why is that a tough get?
Well, there's just not a lot of it around anymore. I think the standard for a player to be able to play in your top 12 forwards has gone way up. So there's not a lot of guys that have enough skill, skate well enough, and also bring that other element. So there's just not a lot of it around. So it is in demand. And the players that have those top guys are certainly not going to part with them. So it's a tough thing to find. As I said, if we can find it and the price is reasonable and we can fit it within our cap, we'll certainly do it. But as I said, we're comfortable with our team. We had a real good regular season and played well in the playoffs. So again, that doesn't mean we won't look to get better. You always look to get better. can find ways to tweak things and get better, we will.